One day, we must come to see that peace is not merely a distant goal that we seek, but that it is a means by which we arrive at that goal. We must pursue peaceful ends through peaceful means. Happy birthday, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Chasing Purpose was designed to empower, uplift, and enlighten you on your journey in chasing your purpose.
Don't waste your time with thoughts of giving up.
Chasing Purpose.
Not too late for us to try. We can overcome.
Chasing Purpose. Candid conversations, nurturing faith, pursuing aspirations, setting intentions.
Together we rise, divided we fall. Yeah. Let Jah lead the way.
Chasing Purpose.
Cause God always a listen.
Chasing Purpose.
One day I have to win. That's why I'ma try again.
Chasing Purpose. Mondays, 7 p.m. on Arijam Radio, Arijam 360, or arijamradio.com. Hosted by Cynthia Shea.
Vexation of spirit is a waste of time. Negative thinking, don't you waste your thoughts. Verbal conflict is a waste of word. Physical conflict is a waste of flesh. People will always be who they want, and that's what really makes the world go round. Unconditional love is scarce.
Shine, oh, I shall not forsake thee.
No one forevermore, forevermore, forevermore. Yeah. You see, you gave precious life to me, so I live my life for you. Always been there for me, and so I'll be there for you.
Shine, oh, I shall not forsake thee.
Bless your eyes and may your days belong. May you rise on the morning when his kingdom come. Good deeds are remembered in the hearts of men. Bless your eyes and may your dreams come true. May you rise on the morning when your kingdom comes. Good deeds are remembered in the hearts of men.
Shine, oh, I shall not forsake thee.
Now and forevermore, forevermore, forevermore. You see, you've always had faith in me, and so I'll have faith in you. You've always been there for me, and so I'll be there for you. You've always been good to me, even when I'm not good to myself. You've always been fair to me, even when I'm not fair to myself. You've always done right by me, so I will do right by you.
Shine, oh, I shall not forsake thee.
You've always been there for me, mama, and so I'll be there for you, papa. You've always been fair to me, brother, and so I'll be fair to you, sister. You've always had faith in me, and So all our faith in you. You've always been good to me. You've always been kind to me. You've always stood up for me. You've always been there for me. You've always been, ooh, you've always been, ooh, you always did care for me. You always did share with me. You've always been true to me. And so I'll be true.
And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Jesus Christ. Philippians chapter 4, verse 7. The power of peace. The power of peace. I sit before you today as a testament of this very Bible verse. There's nothing like knowing the power of peace. I am not even entirely sure how I can put into words what the feeling is. The Bible verse tells us that peace transcends all understanding. It is something I wish for all of you. All who are listening or watching, wherever you are in the world, I pray you all find the power and solace in peace. Welcome to Chasing Purpose. I am your hostess with the mostest and always doing the mostest, Cynthia Shea. Chasing Purpose is a space where peace presides, as well as a space where we have candid conversations nurturing faith, setting intentions, pursuing aspirations, all while living boldly. This show is designed to provoke positivity, to disrupt the norms of self-doubt, self-persecution, anxiety, and fear. Our intention here at Chasing Purpose is to inject positivity, prosperity, most importantly, purpose, into the bloodstream of our lives. I always want to hear from you, hear your views. You can always call us in studio at 888-546-8742. You can follow us on Instagram at ChasingPurpose_on-purpose or at Facebook at Chasing Purpose. You can also join our Facebook group entitled Purpose Soars. There we'll dive into a little bit deeper on our journey together. You can also email us at chasingpurposeonirjam@gmail.com. We are going to take a quick break, and when we return, we will continue our series of nurturing faith. So grab your journals and a pen, and we'll be right back.
No, not just radio, man, you know. RJam radio, you know.
Memories, they always stay with you, and Precious Scenes Photography has spent a lifetime capturing those special moments. Check out their wide array of precious scenes from popular Caribbean events. PreciousScenes.com was created for the purpose of giving Caribbean nationals, friends, and relatives a chance to purchase high-quality photos over the past 35 years. Purchases can be made with all major credit cards, or you may call their office to order by mail at 973-350-1950. That's 973-350-1950. Take a moment to visit PreciousScenes.com, PreciousScenes.com. Also in Creole. Go back in time to great fun and laughter. PreciousScenes.com, reuniting you with scenes of yesteryear.
You paint the perfect picture every time I'm with you.
You ever check out the Golden Cluster on Picking Avenue in Brooklyn? The cooked food is excellent. Soups, porridge, chicken, goat, oxtail, seafood, and fish specials. You name it, they have it. And it tastes nice. Plus, them have peanut punch, Irish moss, carrot, coconut water, sorrel, magnum, and more juices and drinks. Golden Crust at 1655 Picking Avenue near Rockaway Avenue in Brooklyn. 718-342-7576. Catering and delivering services are also available. We little, but we talawa.
Business owners, listen closely. RJam Radio is here to help you rebuild, reopen, and rebound. We know that you're experiencing rough times right now. Money is tight, and we at RJam Radio, we are here for you. We are your station, and we have designed some very special payment plans just for you. These are advertising packages starting as low as $500. And check this out. We'll take credit cards, debit cards, Zelle, PayPal, Cash App, wire transfers, direct deposit, and we'll even take payments in Jamaican dollars. That's right. So don't sit on your couch and do nothing. Act now. We can help you to rebuild your income. Call us now. 888-474-3692. That's 888-474-3692. Let us help you rebuild, reopen, and rebound.
This is my message to you. Don't worry.
I'm Joe, your CBD expert. Jamaica Smooth's tinctures are CBD oils that help with everything from muscle and joint pains to anxiety, depression relief, and even promoting healthier sleeping patterns. The oils are all natural and organic, giving you one of the purest forms of CBD consumption. The Easy Squeeze Dropper provides 3 to 5 drops per dose under the tongue for any of our great tasting CBD oil flavors and is one of the most popular ways to intake CBD. Give us a call.
1-833-SMOOTH-5. That's 1-833-766-6845.
Or JamaicaSmooth.com.
Do you have a credit score of 650 or less? Do you want to get it to 700 and higher? Then call Gold Coast Credit Services at 888-556-0606. Fixing your credit allows you to save money on high-interest credit cards. Stop paying high security deposits. Get lower insurance rates. Stops you from paying cash for everything. Get a higher credit limit. Stop debt collector harassment. Feel better about your credit score. Buy a new house. Qualify for premium credit cards. Removes errors on your credit. Boost your credit score. Refinance all your loans for lower interest rates. Avoid risky alternative financing solutions and much more. Call 888-556-0606. That's 888-556-0606 to fix your credit score today.
This is a public service announcement from Irie Jam Radio.
You have the right to be seen, heard, and respected as a citizen of the world.
You have the right to be treated with equality, regardless of the color of your skin.
You have the right to be protected from harm, injustice, and hatred.
You have the right to your own opinions and feelings,
even if others don't agree with them.
We hold these truths to be self-evident.
We stand up for them. We stand up for each other.
Today, tomorrow, and always, Black Lives Matter.
Now we must heed these words more than ever.
That was a public service announcement from Irie Jam Radio.
Irie Jam.
93.5 VIP.
Welcome back to Chasing Purpose. Our candid conversation continues today with Nadine Mcneil of Universal Empress. Yoga instructor, transformation coach, public speaker, Nadine coined 2 terms to encompass the main object of her work. First, her central message of conscious rising, the act of stepping boldly into the fullest expression of self, thereby becoming a catalyst for collective change, and her quest for the democratization of yoga, the removal of the illusion of elitism attached to the practice in modern times. Nadine also implements a variety of programs, classes, and workshops for underserved populations with past projects in the United States, Jamaica, Haiti, and Africa, contributing, for example, to organizations such as the Africa Yoga Project. Welcome to Chasing Purpose, Nadine. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a joy to be here.
Yeah, and Happy New Year.
And to you too, my goodness. Yes. Happy New Year. Yeah. Wow.
Right, we're here. We're here. We're doing this. It's 2021. We're here. We've made it. We have 4 pillars here at Chasing Purpose: nurturing faith, setting intentions, pursuing aspirations, all while living boldly. These 4 pillars serve as guides for me on my journey of chasing my purpose. You too have 4 pillars in which Universal Empress is built on. Break them down for us.
Essentially, the pillars that guide Universal Empress are intention, living intentionally, trusting that inner voice, your intuition, honoring that inner voice, living with integrity, mean what you say and say what you mean, and what I call divine intelligence, which is an integration of all of those elements. And so if we are living intentionally, purposefully, if we are trusting that voice within, if our actions are in alignment with what we say we're going to do, then it becomes a win-win all around.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, on this journey, where we are right now on Chasing Purpose, we are delving into the first pillar, which is nurturing faith. How important is nurturing faith to you, and what steps do you take in nurturing your faith?
How important? It's the lifeline. Yes. It is absolutely the lifeline. In the absence of faith, there is nothing. And so for me, and this was certainly one of the big things last year, was really anchoring and leaning heavily into my faith and my practices. And for me, that meant daily prayer and meditation and moving my body, like my life depended on it.
And
it
so
did.
Important. Yeah, it does.
It does, and it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found on my journey that forgiveness has been one of the most forefront things that has brought me to this place of peace that we're discussing. Do you agree that forgiveness is one of the first steps to finding peace?
That's a loaded question that you've asked so beautifully and eloquently.
Thank you.
For me, forgiveness is the ultimate spiritual practice and rite of passage. And a few months ago, I came across an explanation for forgiveness that really resonated for me. And it essentially said that forgiveness is relinquishing, giving up the hope that things were different than they actually are. And that really sat with me. Because forgiveness is never about the other person. It's always about the self.
Yes. And I think that's what people are not aware of. They think in forgiving the other person, it's just brushing off what they've done. But no, forgiveness is for self.
You set yourself free.
Yes.
Because in the absence of that, there's then anger, hate, resentment, jealousy, what I call low vibrational frequencies that then keep us stuck. You've heard that saying, you know, resentment is a pill that you take hoping that the other person will die.
Yes.
So forgiveness is the ultimate spiritual act. And it's difficult. It's not easy.
No, it is not easy. It is not easy. I can attest to that. All right. In life, the 5 W's, who, what, when, where, why, act as compasses to life. I find that the why to be the most profound. So I'm going to ask you, what is your why?
What is my why?
Yeah.
Can I backtrack on that a bit? I actually think the what is more important.
Okay.
I think once we get clear on what we're doing, then the why and the how takes care of itself.
Okay.
And you can only know your what when you know what gets you out of bed in the morning. A question I often ask clients. Justice for me is something from I was yay high that's always been very important to me. So the what for me is justice. I guess it's a combination of both. Why do I do what I do? Because as a conscious human being, I have a responsibility to leave the planet better than I found it.
Absolutely.
And so that gets me out of bed in the morning.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Absolutely. The past year has been heavy, to say the least. And we're only 2 weeks into 2021, and it seems to be, I won't say equally heavy, but it's leaning towards there. How do we combat burnout or mental fatigue?
Wow, another big question. You're landing them today, my girl. Heavy is an interpretation. Now, I'm not going to deny or simplify that we've been through some things. However, our most challenging lessons are also our gifts.
I agree.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. You know, the wound becomes the gift. The wound is where the light comes in, as it were. For me, when 2020 appeared, I kind of laughed and I said, be careful what you ask for. You may just get it. Yes. You know? Yes. So while it was undoubtedly a challenging year, we met as a result of 2020.
Yes,
we did as a result of 2020. You know, I often laugh and say one of the things I had said, if 2020 had rolled out as it should have, I would have taught on just about every international yoga festival from Africa to Jamaica and back. In hindsight, I would have probably killed myself in the process because I would have been exhausted. You know, I had set up this trajectory that I look back at it and go, what was I thinking? But guess what? The universe has a sense of humor. So I actually did teach on just about every platform across the world. It just happened online. You know, so and
there was that intervention because your body would have burnt out.
Absolutely. And even the burnout thing, Zoomitis as I call it, in the early days of the virus, when I was like, spending 4 to 6 hours a day online, I said, but this is not sustainable. I felt like I had stuck my finger in an electric socket. And as we all know, we're here on film, is that when you show up on film, you have to bring it. So when we talk about things like burnout, there's burnout even online, what I call Zoomitis. And the other major thing, I'm not in that position, but so many people with children, homeschooling, working from home, being confined to a house that hopefully you love your housemates. There was a lot that we had to deal with during that period, but we also learned a lot about ourselves. One of the things being how to establish healthy boundaries. We couldn't do everything. How to give yourself some breathing space and how to really be in touch with your emotions.
Yeah. 2020 was a year of self-reflection. It forced us to slow down. So as much as we look at it as a chaotic year, the year that we did not want, it forced us to level up. We discussed off camera that 2020, it was a blessing for most part. I mean, a curse for others, but a blessing for most part, because it forced us to recognize what our what is, what our why is, and if we did not find it in 2020, hopefully we find it in 2021. All right, jumping to setting intentions. What have you set for your intentions for 2021?
Wow, you're going to hold me accountable on screen. Okay. So again, stepping back a little bit, one of the things I do at the start of each year is that I have what I call a compass. I choose one word, and that word becomes my compass throughout the year. My word for 2020 was courage. And I laughed at myself throughout the year again. I had no idea what was about to unfold, and that how many times I would really have to tap into courage at a deep and cellular level. What is courage? For me, courage is essentially fear that has said its prayers. The fear doesn't go away. But with the prayers, with the spiritual practice, with leaning into faith, the courage arises that we know we're going to go through. We're going to do this thing, So fast forward to 2021, my word is trust. Trust. And that was the learning experience of courage. And 2020, I had no idea that I would be sitting with you here today in Kingston, Jamaica, in 2021. In fact, and we had thrown it out there into the stratosphere that maybe there's a point at which we'd actually be doing this, and so the intentions for this year, completing some projects that I did not in 2020, namely around my book, around my story, because there's a lot that comes out of that story. What is the story about? It's a memoir of sorts. It's the lessons I've learned living in this body and traveling the world as a Jamaican of African descent, from yoga to the UN to everything in between.
What is the difference between intentions and goals? Or what are the difference?
Okay. I thought you were going to ask me another question, which is why you shouldn't preempt things. For me, the goal is the bigger picture. The intention is the activation of that goal. I thought you were actually going to ask me the difference between intentions and resolutions, which is a big question that comes up at the start of the year.
And because I'm not a fan of resolutions, that's why it wasn't there. But let's go ahead, delve into it.
Because resolutions are passive. Resolutions are passive. Intentions have an activation element to it.
I love that.
And if you think of the syntax of words, being a wordsmith, if you go into a court of law, for example, and say you intend to do something, that's virtually binding. Because intention means there's a certain amount of thought process that's gone into it, that's then infused with an activation beneath it. So, my resolution this year, one of that comes up so many times, I want to lose 10 pounds or gain 10 pounds. Whip-to-dip-to-do. What do you plan to do about it? So you set a timeline. Exactly. That's the intent. My intention is this. In order for me to realize this intention, and one of the things I'm really excited about is living your future into your present. So if I want to wear a size 0 dress, I'm not advocating size 0, but if that's what I want to do on the 31st of March, what do I need to be doing on the 15th of January that's going to realize that? And then you set up what you call them, little signposts, little benchmarks, so you can track your own progress and you can celebrate your wins and hold yourself accountable.
Yeah, I love that. All right. We're going to get into the yoga. Okay, I am not a yogi. I'm a novice here. I have no idea what I'm talking about. But as a yoga instructor, I'm going to ask you to debunk some of these myths that I saw. I researched online. This is how much I do not know anything about yoga. All right. Number 1, yoga is nothing more than stretching.
What about it?
I mean, is it more than stretching? Because right now I have a whole back problem. And somebody did suggest that I do yoga. Do you find that something maybe I can do, or is it more than just stretching? What is yoga? Tell me what yoga is.
Wow, I love the question. For me, and I'm going to go from the macro to the micro, yoga for me is essentially life. So anything that we do where there's presence is the practice of yoga. And so yoga in the conventional sense, or in the sense that you're asking the question, or as we have come to understand yoga in our hemisphere, is a series of physical movements called asanas or postures. That is just a part of yoga. And so whoever suggested possibly that you may want to do yoga for your back issue, it's fairly wise, what is the word I'm looking for, guidance. There's nothing untrue with that. But there's so much more to yoga. The physical part of yoga is the side effect of the practice. I'm going to break that down some more. I fast 2 or 3 times a year.
Okay.
I do it not to lose weight. That's one of the side effects. Why do I do it? If I have a project I'm working on, something I want to get clarity around, if I'm dealing with a major issue in my life, if I want to drop into deep prayer and fasting and meditation, I then do that. The side effect of doing this, my energy goes up. I don't need that much sleep. I get a lot of what I call downloads, connecting with the God of my understanding, and I am unstoppable. That's the side effect. Yeah, same thing with yoga. You might get what we call a yoga butt. You might have a stronger looking body. That's some of the side effect. But really, it is way more than just stretching. And I'm going to end that question with saying it's not stretching the body, it's stretching the mind.
It's stretching the mind, guys. Yoga is stretching the mind. All right, next myth. Yoga is not a workout.
It is and it isn't. It is and it isn't, you know. And again, here we go with these limiting beliefs and ideas and boxes and the way that things should and should not be. You know what I mean? Of course, you're going to get an amazing workout, but you're not going to the mat for a workout. When I step on the yoga mat, the intention of that yoga mat, the mat becomes my mirror. It's that place where I go for self-reflection. You cannot hide on a yoga mat. And I don't know if you can even hide running track if you're present to what you're doing. So for me, the core ingredient in yoga is the presence, the awareness, the consciousness rising, which we'll talk about at some point.
Yes. The next myth that I'd like you to debunk: yoga will automatically make you happy.
I'm happy. No, seriously though. As a transformational life coach, as a human being, as a woman, as a friend, when people tell me they just want to be happy, I go, red flag, red flag. No. Yoga will not make you happy. Yoga will turn you inside out and have you look at your stuff that you didn't want to look at. Yoga is going to bring it right up here, and it's going to demand that you take responsibility for all of your choices and especially love the imperfect parts of yourself.
Love the imperfect parts of yourself. I love that. All right, last one. Yoga is for women, not men.
Interesting. Life is for women, not men. Let's just get rid of all of the men on the planet.
Right. No. Yeah.
No.
You're right.
Interestingly, yoga as it has been passed down to us today is practiced mainly by women. However, yoga in the asana sense of the word was actually developed by men. The practice of Ashtanga yoga, which is a very energetic physical practice, was initially designed for the Indian military. Because there was the feeling that if the mind and the body are open, subtle, aligned, that when you go into battle, into confrontation, you're more aware of yourself. You know, so yoga is for everybody. Two separate words. And I say that because, again, we tend to see a very thin waif, oftentimes Caucasian person in our landscape as someone that practices yoga. And that's, we have some, you know, in the African community, in the black community, we have some serious forces to be reckoned with as teachers. You know, there's this woman, Diane Bondi, out of Ontario. She's a full-figured woman who advocates full-figured yoga for full-figured people. One of my dear friends, Leslie Salmon Jones, who used to dance with Alvin Ailey, has designed Afro Flow Yoga. She's in Toronto, in Boston, pardon me. You have Sarah Clarke. I mean, there's a whole range of people, and a lot of that has come up in the last decade or so. Yeah.
Okay. It's all right. I'm going to set the intention, which means it's going to hold me accountable and I have to get to the action. I'm going to set the intention. And Nadine is going to be my guide.
Yes, yes.
I'll get back to you guys on how it goes. All right. Talk to me about conscious rising.
Consciousness rising.
Consciousness rising, excuse me.
I would say about 4 years ago, these words started to come to me again through the journey and practice of yoga. And as human beings, I feel that we're doing the best we can based on what we know. We make our choices from there. As we receive new information, experiences, that can shift. So as our consciousness shifts, that has a direct impact on our levels of awareness. So I will continue to eat fast food until I recognize or I realize or I become aware of the fact that all I'm doing is stuffing my carcass. I'm not adding any nutritional value. Once I have that shift in consciousness, I notice when I eat a plant-based diet or I eat organic food or I eat food in its most natural form as possible, that my body feels different. I'm aware, so I act differently. So to me, one of our purposes in life is to elevate our levels of consciousness, because it's from that elevated place transformation takes place.
Transformation. You have an upcoming course, a transformational group coaching course coming up. Talk to us about that.
Super excited. So transformational group coaching, I want to unpack the word transformation for a little bit. The easiest way to describe transformation for me is if we think of a piece of bread and then you toast it. So you're working with the same product, as it were, but the toasting, which is the process, transforms it into something that it looks and tastes different from what it was initially. So oftentimes when we hear that word, we think about the caterpillar to the butterfly. Or when we think of the word transformation, we all see the beautiful butterfly. But guess what? The transformation is the journey to your wings. Yeah, so we have to be that ugly, bald, creepy, crawly person moving along. And then we go through life, the growth, the process. That's the transformation. And then we spread our wings, which is a manifestation of your transformation. So my upcoming transformational group coaching program is a 4-week program that actually runs over 8 weeks. Every other week, so twice in January and twice in February, we have 90-minute Zoom calls with everyone on call. And then when you're off call, you get assignments via email. You get partnered with something around a particular topic. We're at the start of the year, so this particular one is all about tapping into your 2021 intelligence. So the first week, we're going to unpack intention. What does that mean to live intentionally? How do you create those intentions? Then we go into trusting ourselves. So you're still working with the 4 pillars of Universal Empress. Then we move into our integrity, and then we move into intelligence. A huge part of that first piece, and I do this particularly on my first group coaching, is getting complete with 2020. Journaling is a huge part of the work that I do. Why? Because if it doesn't get written down, it doesn't happen.
Okay.
Yeah? If you think about it, that's why to-do lists make sense. You want something to manifest, the first step is in writing that down. Creating vision boards and clearing out, getting complete with the previous year. Why is that important? Because otherwise it's niggling in your subconscious, this thing that you didn't finish. You know you cleaned out the kitchen, but you didn't put the dishes from the dish drainer into the cupboard. That final bit. So that when we start to really step into the fullest expression of ourselves and the life you're choosing to create, that which you wish to manifest, you're starting with a clean slate.
All right. A lot was just said there. But one of the 2 major things that I pulled out, write this down. Transformation is the journey to getting your wings. I am a huge, everybody that knows me knows that I love butterflies. Okay, my foundation is called the Irie Butterfly Foundation. Transformation is the journey to getting your wings. Major key. Second one, I mean, from last year when we started Chasing Purpose, is something that I have said to you guys. Get a to-do list, get a journal, write it down. If it doesn't get written down, it doesn't happen. If it doesn't get written down, it does not happen. Again, you'll thank us later. All right. Nadine, tell us about the Africa Yoga Project.
Wow, I love the Africa Yoga Project. It was started by a dear friend of mine, Paige Ellenson. Wow, over 10 years ago, in fact. It's been around for quite some time. And the mission behind Africa Yoga Project, the initial mission was to provide teachers in Kenya, in Nairobi, that were trained in the practice of yoga, Baron Baptiste, Power Yoga, and then they were able to take yoga as a livelihood as teachers into various communities and teach, you know. And so to be able to volunteer there, and again, you're talking over 10 years ago, I was living in, I think I was in Sudan at the time. Yes, I was living and working in Sudan. So we're talking 15 years ago. Wow, 2005, 2006. And so it was the first time for me to see an ensemble of people of my color, my hue, practicing and teaching yoga. And we can take this one step further, depending further or back. You know, we look at Kemetic yoga. You know, Kemetic yoga is of African origin. There has been some debate in the yoga world as to where yoga started. That's not a conversation I choose to get into. It's a waste of time, I think, actually, and energy. As I said at the beginning, yoga is life. And so as people of African descent, as people where we move our body, you know, places like Zimbabwe, there are countries, we even do it in Jamaica, but we don't actually identify it as such. where before any political discussion, rally, etc. takes place, there's a dance, there's a movement. Why? Because moving our bodies is an intrinsic part of who we are as people.
Absolutely.
You know, so that's Africa Yoga Project in a nutshell. When I first experienced Africa Yoga Project, I had a similar vision for Jamaica, and I still do.
Yes.
We need a different level of consciousness for that to be realized.
Can you say that again? I don't.
We need a different level of consciousness for
Louder for them in the back, like
for that to be realized. But why not? You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Why not?
And so that is what, for me, the whole essence of the practice of yoga is. As I said earlier, we leave the place better than we found it by inspiring ourselves and uplifting others.
Yes, we do. Listen, guys, I'm getting my whole life together in this conversation. All right. Tell us about your most unlikely public speaking gig. As a public speaker, she also wears a public speaker hat.
Unlikely. Unlikely meaning that it wasn't where I was supposed to be, or it was an unusual setup.
Unusual. Let's say unusual setup.
Wow. I remember it wasn't really public speaking, but it was on television a few years ago in Jamaica, where I was being interviewed in between two pastors. And the level of consciousness has shifted since then. But one of them was adamant against meditation because his interpretation of meditation was that you lose yourself in meditation, and so if you lose yourself, then entities can enter you. And that was a rather unlikely place for me to be, because for me, prayer is when I speak to God, and meditation is when I get into a place of humility, receptivity, and grace, and listen to what God has to say to me. So that was, I don't know if it was unlikely, but it was a strange platform to be a part of.
And I'm sure the pastor left enlightened.
I hope so too.
All right. Who is Nadine Mcneil separate from the Universal Empress brand?
Wow, huge question. And I spent a lot of time in 2020 pondering that. Universal Empress was born out of my former UN life of traveling all over the world. As I've often explained on interviews, coming from Jamaica, you have Natty, you wear the covenant, you name Empress. So it was just like a natural fit, which I'm very grateful for. As I often say, there are ways that I flex in Jamaica as a result of wearing the covenant that I probably wouldn't or couldn't if I didn't. Nadine Mcneil gave birth to Universal Empress, so she's really her mother in some sort of matrilineal, intergenerational sort of a way. Are they separate and apart? I'm not so sure. In recent times, especially as I'm taking work more to the corporate realm, because let's face it, you and I are of like mind and like heart. Where I really want to effect change is in those people who are not vibrating at this frequency, who do not recognize that a peaceful life, a more enlightened life, is sitting lightly in the palms of their hands.
Right there. Literally
Right there.
Right there.
Right there.
And they cannot grasp it for some reason. So this is important.
Yeah. So, and because of boxes and because we have preconceived notions, when you hear Empress and you see me with my hair, people make certain assumptions about me based on that. So I'm going off on a tangent, but you get my point. They are one and the same, and the intention for 2021 is to harmonize them. And I may even move a bit out of the Empress dynamic. I've heard both sides of the equations, working with a couple of marketing and branding people on that, because I really want to, my intention, my vision, my dream, my purpose, large scale audiences, 5,000 people, corporate, game changers, politicians, people that are enacting change, because that's where we need it. That's where the change has to happen.
Yeah, and it will happen. We're speaking it. We're setting the intention.
Ashe, yes.
Ashe, yes. All right, I'm gonna not push back a bit, because I am part Bayesian. My message, and this is what I teach to my young children in my summer program, is that I strongly believe that being of Jamaican and of Bayesian descent, being Caribbean, that is my superpower.
Absolutely.
I could not be where I am and the person that I am today if it wasn't for that. So we're speaking the same message here. You're going to say something. Go ahead. You were going to say something? Say it.
I'm going to push this piece of paper. Now, what we have to do, the intention as a Caribbean, is to harmonize. We have Caribbean people that know Miami, New York, Philly, London, etc., but they don't know Bridgetown, Port of Spain, or Kingston. It's insane.
It's true.
And we have the example of what has just happened with Brexit, what's happening in the EU. So Brexit is going to feel this coming down the road. Begin at home. So I think one of the examples that we're certainly setting here is that of the Caribbean connection.
Yeah, important. Getting my whole life here, guys. All right. Are you seeking peace, or have you found peace with where you are on your journey?
Ooh, another big question. What is peace? I think peace is our birthright. I think all human beings, every man has an equal right to live and be free. Peace is at the basis of that, man and woman. I think peace is a process and peace is a journey. And I'm definitely on a quest for peace. I spent 22 years at the UN because I believed in the Charter of Peace. I am your consummate peacemaker. And I want to say something about that, because one of the lessons, again, 2020, Life University of Adversity, was sometimes there are two things I'd say about that. Sometimes the most peaceful thing you can do is absolutely nothing. And the other thing is, and this is controversial, not everything needs to be organized and sorted out and left neat and tidy for peaceful lives. As West Indians, as Jamaicans, we know how many things we have underneath the carpet for a peaceful life. Sometimes the most peaceful thing that we can do is to have conscious communication, active and respectful listening, so that we can then arrive at a place of clarity and understanding or understanding.
So important. So very important. You said you worked at the UN. Tell us about that time. Where did the work take you on your travels?
The work took me just about everywhere. My first UN posting was in Iraq, following Desert Storm in '91. So I've lived in the Middle East, Iraq, Kuwait, Bahrain. I spent about 7 years living in Europe working on chemical disarmament. Worked in Sudan for about a year. Then I was in Indonesia following the tsunami in 2004 for about 5 years. I was in Haiti following the earthquake in 2010, was it? Yes, 12th of January. I've done a fair bit of volunteer work here in Jamaica. I've worked in the Central African Republic. I've done stints in Somalia, Sierra Leone. I've worked and traveled to just about every continent except South America as a result of my UN experience, which I'm deeply grateful for. And at some level, sort of bringing everything together so organically and beautifully, it was my burnout in my UN work that led me to my yoga. And so it's all sort of come full circle, as it were. And the world still remains my oyster. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, as you live in Bali.
Yes.
live in Bali, from Jamaica. How do the cultures differ, and then how are they alike? Because I find that whenever I travel over the globe, we find that a lot of the cultures, while they may be different, they're similar.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yes.
talk to us about Bali and the difference between Bali and Jamaica, or similarities.
Yes, I often say I'm blessed to live between two magical islands, Jamaica and Bali. You know, Bali is to the east what Jamaica is to the west. If we think of the spices, the spice islands, you know, the spice trade, the flowers, the fauna, the fruit, a lot of it is very similar. I would say the main difference between Bali and Jamaica is that of religion. Bali is predominantly Hindu, though it is a Muslim country. Indonesia is the 4th largest Muslim country in the world. And Jamaica being Christian, you know, but I say Jamaica is my yang. Jamaica is that sort of in your face, you know, masculine thing, and Bali's, oh, you know, we're floating with the flowers, and that soft yin, very feminine self. And so I get to balance both aspects of that within myself. I love both. I can't tell you which one I love more. When I'm in Jamaica, there's nowhere else in the world I'd like to be. When I'm in Bali, there's almost nowhere else I'd like to be, but a little bit of Jamaica.
Yeah.
Yes.
On your journey, have you had any regrets?
I might have been a hell of a lot richer if I had accepted the 3 marriage proposals that I did not. Which would have moved my business a hell of a lot further along. But in hindsight, I probably wouldn't have been able to do the work and travel the world and be of service in the way that I have.
And leave the impact that you certainly want to leave.
Yes, yes. Thank you. And, you know, I say to my friends who are mothers in the biological sense of the word, it's not so much a regret, but a missed opportunity in that I think there's a part of being a woman, W-O-M-B-A-N, that until and unless you've been through that process of motherhood, that I can intellectualize, but I will never fully understand. And I think as part of being a humanitarian, of being a mother, you know, giving birth to someone, that unconditional love, that loving of that person before self, as part of the human dynamic, I miss not having had that opportunity. One might say adopt, it's not the same. And one of the things my mother said to me is that we're all not meant to mother in the biological sense of the word. Because I do a lot of mothering on a daily basis. Yeah. And, you know, I guess I'm lucky enough that I can go home and have a drink and close the door.
Awesome. Where can our audience find you?
You can find me at my website, universalempress.com. I am most active on Instagram at Universal Empress. I'm also on YouTube, Universal Empress, and of course Facebook, Universal Empress. And if you're going to Google and type in who is Nadine Mcneil, the first thing that comes up is Universal Empress.
Awesome.
And yeah, that's how to find me. Stay tuned. I would be really excited if some of our listeners joined our upcoming group
tell us
coaching.
about that one last time,
So I'll tell you a bit more about that. We actually start on Sunday, the 17th of January, but 11 times out of 10, I do 2 starts because something happens between the 17th and the next week where there are people who want to start. So we'll have a call. The first call is on Sunday, the 17th of January. The next call is on the 31st of January. If someone joins between the 17th and the 31st of January, I'll schedule a call to bring them up to speed so that on the 31st, we're all in the same path. As I said earlier, there are 4 Zoom calls. They're 90 minutes each. In between that, there are emails. The cost on that is $579 US as part of Chasing Purpose. You get a 20% discount, but you have to sign up using that Chasing Purpose. All of this information is on my website or on Instagram. Our calls happen on a Sunday at 8 a.m. Eastern Time and last for 90 minutes. Those calls are recorded. In the event that you're not able to be in session, then you can get the recordings. But as you know, you got to be in it to win it. You got to be on the playing field. And so the more that you show up is the more that you will get. I'm also available for one-to-one private coaching, minimum of 3 months. And I also do day retreats for both corporate as well as individuals, mindfulness retreats, how to create vision boards, how to write your vision boards along with your mission statement for the year.
Awesome. Nadine, thank you for sharing space and time with us today. Man, today was absolutely brilliant, and I look forward to connecting with you on a deeper level, so thank you.
Oh my goodness, thank you. I'm really very excited, and thank you for this. It's a privilege, you know, and I love what you're about. As I said at the beginning, chasing purpose, not dreams. That's very intentional right there.
Yes.
So thank you.
It all begins in our minds. God has given us the promise. He promised a peace that surpasses all understanding. The very peace that I have come to find and love, which I cannot put into words. My belief is the key to unlocking the promise of peace is in our minds, in our thought processes. What are we feeding our minds determines whether we will unlock the promise of divine peace. I urge you today to take stock in your thinking, audit your thoughts, shift your mindsets, release the anxiety, release the thought of fear, release negative thinking. Be cognizant of what is taking place in your psyche and instead replace all of those things with positive thinking. You hold the key to unlocking the promise, gifted to us by the Almighty. You hold the power to unlocking that promise and finding the power of peace. I leave you with this quote. When things change inside, things change around you. God bless and good night.
Peace of mind. That's just what I seek to find. Oh yeah. In the mood, I just need some solitude. Oh gosh, but everybody's trying to talk to me and nobody trying to hear me out. So you've got some things to say, honestly, you're just a movie mount. The things you say, it makes no sense, and we're not the time to figure it out.